Hey guys, Level Cap here, and this week in gaming, DICE kicked off Battlefield 2042's post-launch support. Cheaters are ruining Halo Infinite matches on console, Cyberpunk 2077 is getting very positive reviews, and much more. Battlefield 2042's post-launch support has begun. DICE released a massive blog post detailing their plans for the game's next 3 updates. The first of those updates went live on Thursday. It reduced bullet spread on all weapons except shotguns. Bullet spread prevented many weapons from performing as intended. This change has made a pretty dramatic improvement to the game's overall weapon balance. The PP-29's vertical recoil was increased to make it more of an SMG and less of a long-range weapon. The bug preventing players from being revived if they were killed too close to a wall or water was fixed, but we're still seeing issues with this happening on occasion. It just happens less often. The Nightbird, Suker Hokum, and Apache all had their weapons tuned slightly to be less powerful. The minigun on all land vehicles was also nerfed to be, well, less crazy. The last big change is the hovercraft got a significant nerf. It's now a light armored vehicle. 2 rockets can destroy, and thanks to that minigun nerf, you should be dying a lot less to hovercraft in general. However, this patch did not fix hovercrafts being able to climb walls, and I'm not sure if DICE is planning on doing that. There's a handful of other minor changes and fixes listed in the patch notes, which you can find linked below. The general reaction to this patch has been very positive, but it's clear that more work needs to be done. The next update for the game will arrive in early December. It'll be much more substantial than the previous patch, with tweaks to specialists, the UI, matchmaking progression, rendering, portal, hazard zone, and much more. DICE are hoping to have a 3rd update out before the end of the year, but they didn't detail what that update would do specifically. DICE are working on bigger issues like PC performance, so hopefully some of those improvements will make it out before the end of the year. One major issue DICE will be addressing soon is a hit registration issue well documented by Jack Frags. A DICE developer replied to his tweet about the issue saying that they've got a fix for the problem, but they didn't say when that fix would actually be applied. And really, that's where I'd like to hear you guys weigh in. Are DICE doing enough to fix 2042? Let me know in the comments below. One bright spot for 2042 players has been watching the Portal custom game mode scene. Recent highlights include a proper battle royale experience and a wingsuit training mode that uses several clever hacks to brute force these modes into existence. It'll be interesting to see if DICE adds official options to enable more polished experiences for modes like this, or if players will just get more inventive. Chances are it'll be a combination of both, as DICE have already stated plans for further expanded tools to customize Portal. Halo Infinite cheaters have arrived on PC. Clips of cheaters are floating around social media. The game's multiplayer launched as a free-to-play experience a couple of weeks ago. Console players are saying PC cheaters are now ruining their matches thanks to crossplay being forced on. Console players are asking for the option to disable crossplay. Free-to-play multiplayer titles are always a massive target for cheaters, especially popular entries in well-established franchises. The twist with Infinite is that it's technically an incomplete beta right now. The proper launch is on December 8th. That launch could implement a more robust or complete anti-cheat solution. The developers haven't directly addressed these concerns yet, so we don't really know. Infinite is being positioned as the grand return of Halo to the esports scene. Thwarting cheaters and preventing cheating from becoming a massive issue for the game is central to the game's long-term success with both everyday players and as an esports title. Cyberpunk 2077's new reviews are rated as very positive on Steam. The game launched last year to incredibly negative press, focusing on its bugs, performance issues, and unrefined gameplay. The game's developers have released several significant updates since then and are currently working on a massive overhaul of the entire game. These days, however, you will still encounter plenty of bugs in Cyberpunk. Things are much worse for last-gen console players. You'd be lucky to maintain 30 FPS and you'll still be struggling against plenty of remaining bugs. PC players have the benefit of more powerful hardware to brute force the game's performance issues. They also have access to dozens of mods that sort out gameplay issues and bugs. If you are on the fence about Cyberpunk, it's tough to say if now is the time to jump in. By many accounts, it's a great game marred with tons of bugs. With user reviews trending positive, it's also a good sign that the game is in a much more playable state these days. Microsoft added several Xbox 360 games to their backward compatibility library as part of their 20th anniversary celebration. Gears 3, Mirror's Edge, the original Assassin's Creed, and a handful of other games are now playable on next-gen consoles. They're also sporting an FPS boost that can double or even quadruple performance depending on the game. According to Eurogamer, the results are a mixed bag. A handful of these titles have gotten Xbox One X enhancements that add stuff like 4K rendering and better graphics options. Combined with the FPS boost, those titles look stunning, but for the games that haven't gotten an enhanced edition, expect low resolutions and graphics settings. In other Xbox news, Microsoft are working on improvements to video capture quality and sharing features on the Xbox Series consoles. Right now, these features are nice to have but don't serve as a substitute for a proper capture card. Microsoft's consoles are behind the curve compared to the ease of use and quality of the PlayStation 5's share features. Improvements were planned for this year, and the developers are unhappy with how little they managed to do. Hopefully that means we'll see more significant improvements next year. Amazon's MMO New World had another week of weird issues. This time it was players in the EU servers being given 300,000 gold by accident. Affected players were supposed to get compensated for gold lost due to server issues, but the system went haywire and gave out way more than intended. The devs eventually sorted the problem out by rewinding players to a save state before being given the gold. Unfortunately, it seems like these issues might be contributing to the game's declining player base. Currently, New World only has about 10% of the players that it did during its peak launch week. And while it did hit an astronomical 900,000 peak players, dropping off 90% in less than 2 months is a pretty steep decline. Bugs that affect the game's economy or force players to grind back lost inventory and items are a pretty big deal in New World, especially since the whole game hinges on resource collection to craft upgrades, barter, and more. The game still seems very solid at its core. The devs just need to sort out some of these bugs and also start adding some more content. Speaking of big player counts, Steam just broke its online concurrent player count record. The previous record was set in April at 26.9 million people, but late last night it broke 27 million concurrent users, hitting a peak of 27,100,000 concurrent users. And of those 27 million users, nearly 8 million of them were actually playing a game. That's also a record for the platform. At this point, there's no telling where the ceiling is for Steam. It's been trending up for years, with no end in sight despite increased competition. Before we get to the final story this week, I hope you guys had a good holiday break. If you're taking a holiday break, I'll be back to my normal content this week with more Battlefield content and gaming news starting tomorrow, so get subscribed and stay tuned. Nintendo Switch exclusive Monster Hunter Rise is making its way to PC on January 12th. Since its original launch, Rise has been praised as an excellent entry in the franchise. It's gotten several post-launch updates that add new content as well. Everything in the current version of the game will be available on PC day one. Future content updates will start syncing between the two versions of the game in February. The PC port of Rise increases the resolution to 4K and offers improved textures, frame rates, and more. And that wraps it up for this week in gaming. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.